Hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar on strategy and you from Go Crack It. And we'd like to welcome our mentor Ashish Dongre for this webinar. We thank him for his precious times for this. So Ashish is currently the joint head of real estate and corporate strategy at GBK Group. And Ashish is an IIM Bangalore EPGP alum with 15 years of experience across strategy, finance, and operations in companies such as GBK, Hindalco, Aditya Birla Group. So we are really eager to listen from you, Ashish. So please proceed.
Yeah, okay, great. So, hello everyone. Thank you, Bishal, for introducing me. Thank you, Surita, for having me to do this webinar for all of you. So, I think the session I have divided into two major parts. One is basically, I thought that I recently experienced in this COVID lockdown a situation of crisis, which kind of unfolded very close to where I stay, and the kind of reaction that we had on that particular point, that was quite a startling experience for me. In that moment, it was a very immediate and rapid reaction, but that also kind of unfolded that how if you are a inherent strategic thinker, then some of the aspects of your thinking, how they play out when you are actually in a situation where you need to take action. So that is actually like a strategy in action, uh, which was the kind of topic which unfolded. So the problem statement, as one would like to normally say, it was basically there were this 5,000 or more migrant laborers who had gathered near my house. So I stay in Powai in Mumbai. So there is a huge ground over here. So I think the government had planned that they will be migrating these daily wage earners or migrant laborers over the period of 2-3 days, and they were asked to gather near this in this ground, and they were going to make arrangement for logistics for them. So yes, it was a very good initiative by government to send distressed people back home, but of course, a lot of time government machinery doesn't plan, or the situations unfold that they are not able to take action which match the requirement. So what happened was there were a lot of these laborers with their families, small kids, etc., who had gathered in, and there was no proper arrangement of food, shelter, and any other, not even drinking water. So people were selling water in black and stuff like that. Those kind of things were happening. So as such, we also don't go out. So I was not aware, but somebody mentioned that such a situation has happened. So then immediately in the evening, basically what we did, we have a group in our society. So we basically floated this information that guys, this kind of situation has developed. So let's get whoever wants to volunteer, please come on board and we can act on this. So that was the first kind of say in, and that one can draw a parallel in the corporate environment as well. That whenever you say face a situation, which is say a crisis or a normal business situation also, where you see that things are not going as per plan, the first most important aspect about it is to call it out that there is a problem and raise it, escalate it. That basically you should raise it to all the stakeholders, to all the people who can contribute towards making it, towards working on it. So that was the first thing, the communication part, accepting that there is a problem, identifying the problem, and then socializing it. Then basically immediate next aspect that we focused on was to build a team. So I'm referring to the slide in that order. So first, basically, then we started building a team. So this was a task which we faced where we didn't have a team. So it was a like a social cause. So there is generally, yeah, there are a few active people in any society. And again, you can draw a parallel to organizations as well, that you will have a lot of there will be a few people who will be ready to take initiative in an organization. And if you want, you can note down this point, and in your Q&A we can revisit this point, that what does that mean in terms of your career or making a shift. Because these kind of opportunities or crisis situations, while a lot of people may think and take them as, oh my god, this has happened, uh, so the first thing was basically that you accept what has happened, communicate it, socialize it, then take the initiative. So I think that's one point I think which you should note, and which will later on in your Q&A and largely in your career also help you in terms of how to, because a lot of people ask that I'm not getting an opportunity, where do I start, I want to make a move. So these are the kind of aspects where you can actually leverage upon a situation which comes. So then the next step which we did was making a team. So then started identifying who, first of all, who is ready to volunteer. And here there's no reward and stuff like that. So we had to basically bank on people's intrinsic motivation. So that itself was a big challenge, because generally at the end of completion of a task, if there is a reward, then people are motivated. So that was the second important task we did. Third was, then there was of course no resource. So because this problem came with a basically problem statement, and there were no resources that were granted to us and stuff like that. So basically then we started in parallel fundraising activity. So again, this also you can note down, and while in a company also, when you are facing a problem or running a particular project, this is a problem that a lot of people face, and especially in strategy or new product development, those kind of avenues, people often face these issues that, oh, I have a great idea, but I don't have a sponsor. So how do you focus on these aspects? So then that was another very important, critical, and at one point of time a bottleneck issue for us. Then the fourth part was the irritant. So now, since this was a social cause and there were already government authorities which were involved, plus there were skeptical fellow residents that what is happening, these people are going out and they are going to mingle around with people. So yes, and some of these concerns were valid, but again, these were the inhibitors which we had to overcome. And time pressure, I think very similar to a corporate, the time pressure here was also quite high. If we were not able to basically deliver the goods in a few hours, then it was meaningless, because that lot of people would basically go away in buses and go to their destinations, but their kind of suffering for that moment of time, we would not have been able to solve. So again, this was one more big constraint, or a time constraint which was there. Then, as I mentioned, how basically, so the first decision that we had to make was basically, are we going to be fence sitters in this kind of a situation, or are we going to act? So this was the first decision, and that is about strategy in terms of whether you want to do a business or you don't want to do a business. So the first question that we wanted, for a moment, if you assume that whether we doing this act of philanthropy or charity was a business, then we decided mentally whether the pros and cons, that what are the pros, what are the cons. So cons can be that yes, there is a risk of exposure, you have to spend so much time, you have other things going on and stuff like that. And the pros were that basically you would be able to help somebody who is in need. You will be able to, because you have resources, you are say fortunate in that respect, you are safe, you can take care of some individuals. So the fulfillment or self-fulfillment was a big pro that we decided. So this is like a decision metrics, mental decision metrics which develops, and you also would have kind of face these kind of situation in your everyday life, but this was at such a large scale also. So it was because when we went to the site, we were overwhelmed. 5,000, more than 5,000 people in a ground, and you are just say a group of 4 or 5 people who are going to help. So but all these constraints we kept in mind and said that yes, we want to plunge. So that was the first say tick in the box. Then once we said yes, for a moment we were again perplexed ki acha, we have said that we want to help them, but what do we do, what are the things we can do, and what are the things we can possibly deliver. So again, if you also consider, you can now mentally draw parallels to the business, that you can get into a business, but your product cannot be everything for everybody. I think that is one very important aspect of organization strategy across industries, that a lot of people think too much. They want their product to be everything for everybody. So that basically ends up losing the impact, the effect. So we decided, first of all, there were a lot of suggestions coming in, and from people who were not even part of this initiative. So because then that you will also see in organizations, that when it comes to giving suggestions, there will be hundreds of people who will say, "Acha, aise bhi kar lete hain, tweak it like this. You should make for example, say you are making a Lux bar, then make it introduce deodorant also inside it. People should not need to take bath for 3 days. It can be used on hair also. So you can get all wild kind of suggestions. So when we went with this problem, people were saying, oh, why don't we build a big tent, we provide a full langar to all of them. So all these kind of vague ideas, some good, noble at heart, but I think execution becomes challenge. So those all kind of things came in. And like in an organization one would do, but in a lot of organizations you might find this doesn't happen, that you focus only on 3 4 main items which one can say are your core competencies. So I repeat, focus what are the items which are your core competencies, and strike out the noise. I think that is one critical takeaway maybe from this slide for all of you, that how to basically you will have some seemingly brilliant ideas from people, but when you chart them out on a yardstick of implementability, you will find them that they may not be strictly implementable given the bandwidth. There are various constraints, so you might not be able to achieve them. So it's very very important to focus on those core competency areas. Now this is valid for organizations, this is also valid for individuals like all of you. So you might be thinking, oh, I'm good at say organizational leadership, I'm good at marketing, I'm good at consulting, I'm good at good with numbers, I'm good with communication, so let me do everything. No, that it doesn't work that way. Maybe in long run it may, but it is very important to focus on couple of important aspects that you can focus on, develop them in depth so that you can deliver with impact. Okay, so that was about this particular slide. Then now comes the execution part. So yes, wonderful strategy we had, we want, and a magnificent vision that yes, we are going to help these people. Everybody had a rush of adrenaline. Yes, we are going to do something good. But now putting that into action, gathering all the resources, mobilizing things in matter of minutes. So within half an hour, we had kind of mobilized a food supplier. We had spoken to Bisleri company. We spoke to them, organized for a discount for water bottles. We spoke to Parleji directly to the company. We organized for discounts, organized for delivery at site. Then we organized volunteers internally, saying that yes, we need to reach site, and 5 6 of us need to basically be geared. So a lot of us. Then the question came about PPEs. How do we basically? So this again comes with respect to tools. So you might want to get into a business or a project, or you might want to say get into a new job for the stage where you guys are in. The important question comes is how well prepared you are. So you need to have the tools and tackles so that basically you can deliver again with efficiency and effectiveness. So then what we did was, whatever small team we had, a team of only 5 6 people. So the team we basically divided into, say, a person responsible for logistics, a person responsible for talking to the food vendor, somebody talking to the water vendor, somebody organizing the PPEs, somebody organizing with the police and the government machinery at the site. So it should not happen that yes, you have good intention, you reach the site, but the police and the government machinery kicks you out. That saying that what are you doing? You are yourself violating lockdown. So we got all the requisite permissions, set up a kiosk over there, and all this was in matter of minutes. So this was again a good kind of a thing that we implemented, and that goes back to my first point, that I basically in this situation had to assume a role of a undesignated CEO. So now again, that is a very very difficult thing to do. People might think you are pushy. People might think you are kind of pushing for importance. You want the limelight, but at the same time, there will be very limited people who will come ahead and kind of want to volunteer and have that responsibility on their head. Similar thing in organization, and let's address this in your Q&A, is that there will be a lot of instances where you will have opportunities where you have to start by doing the grunt work. You have to take the responsibility. You have to wear the thorny crown and go ahead, even at the cost of people saying that you are going way beyond your job description. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to show? But if you strongly believe that you want to do something, you have to take that strong foot forward and go ahead and take the initiative, right? I think this slide basically, in terms of execution, what I'm talking about, it's quite self-explanatory, that reach the site, execute with flair, motivate your team members, and celebrate. So yes, there was limited avenues for celebrating, but after we kind of whatever. So we had organized almost 5,500 bottles of waters, almost uh, around 5,000, 6,000 pieces of bananas and stuff like that. So there was a massive amount of hard work, logistically, physically involved for all of us. But then after that, we got together, had shared a laugh, commended each other's work, and basically went back home. So that was a task completed kind of very, very gloriously, and in very short amount of time. You can see from some of the pictures, and all of them, all of so this is myself wearing this cap, this person in the orange, this thing is the local MLA. The person over here is the local inspector who was in charge of this. This person who is carrying this crate of bananas is working in New Zealand embassy. This person is a navy person. So you can see that you have to take up tasks which are way beyond or below your pedigree. You might think, oh my god, I am so overqualified, how can I work on Excel, how can I do data analysis, how can I do data collation? But if you have to achieve something larger, you have to focus on the larger picture and be ready to do the grunt work. I think that is one important kind of takeaway from this slide. So I think that was my learning from this, the issue or the big crisis that we faced, and how we kind of uh, turned ourselves in and turned into a positive situation, and all of us kind of came out as winner with lot of motivation, lot of happiness at the end of it. So we can address in your Q&As in terms of how, what are your views, what do you think in terms of crisis, how one should basically go about doing these kind of issues and the parallels with the organization. Now, quickly, I will run you through in terms of my own journey and how what I've been doing in past few years, so that you get a perspective, and then we can jump into the Q&A session. Now, this is again a bit of a fuzzy question. A lot of people have different views, and I don't say that my view is the correct view. But I think very, very simplistically, if somebody has to say what is strategy, it is actually about making choices. For a business, it's basically saying that I want to get into a particular business and not the other business. So either you want to become a travel company or you want to become a hospitality company. Yes, you can become a travel company with a touch of difference, bring in hospitality, but your overall strategy should be clear that I want to achieve something in this particular segment. Other things can be add on. But again, now these questions are also up for debate, because I'll just give you an example in terms of airports. So I currently work in airports. So now one big buzzword which is going on in airports is how do you completely capture a passenger's entire journey. So now airports, if you see as a strategy or as a business, we are into business of transportation of passengers in terms of non-aero revenues. So what passengers spend at airport, the experience that we provide to passengers in an airport. But now we are saying, no, we want to capture the entire journey, right from the time you book your tickets to the time you are back in the destination where you want to go, and even going further in terms of your hospitality bookings, what you want to do, your ride hailing, everything we want to capture. So that's why I mentioned strategy always is a bit fuzzy, because a lot of people think of strategy in different ways. But simply, I think said since ages, from the time of Michael Porter to a lot of new age writers and strategy experts, one thing is very clear, that it's about making choices and a structured way of thinking without and before getting into implementation, it's having a game plan. So that's all about strategy, what strategy is. And ultimately, the importance of strategy or the effectiveness of strategy is in its implementability. So you might have a fabulous strategy, and a lot of big consultants have been kind of shamed for this approach, that they give great strategies, but they are not implementable. But those consultants obviously succeed, which handhold the client in implementation and execution, and also they have themselves seen a lot of execution. So I think that is one very important part about strategy. And when we go into Q&A, I saw some of the questions in terms of how strategy and execution differ and what should be the key attribute of a strategy manager. I think that is one key key attribute for a strategy manager, that one should be aware that how the nuts and bolts of any company or any execution work. Then basically you will be good strategy manager. Not that you can't make strategy without an experience of execution. Then I think this is more a bit theoretical. We can get into it later on, but generally I think, yeah, on a business, on a day-to-day level, on a shop floor also, you will have strategy each day, how you want to pan out on a shop floor. If it's a metal manufacturing company or a auto manufacturing company, each day will have a strategy that which resources will be allocated on which, say, assembly line, who will be doing the packaging. All those are also things of strategy in terms of resource allocation, that who is the best suited for which job. But overall corporate strategy is generally referred to when you talk about in a multi-business environment, or a setup or a team which is working with the top leaders of a company, and designing the way forward, or long-term initiatives of the company, so that the execution team and the management team at large are basically aligned in terms of where the company wants to be in X time frame number amount of years or months. So that is what generally corporate strategy is referred to. Again, you will find a lot of debate, and one does not need to have a very rigid definition of corporate strategy, because by definition corporate strategy involves a lot of ambiguity. So there is no harm in even in interviews, or when you are facing a large pool of people, and you say that this is my view of strategy and this is what I believe, or this is what I have come to know. I would be happy to learn from you guys. I think that will be a more than welcome response from you when defining strategy. And this is a very important question, when a lot of times students get asked this question, that what do you mean by strategy? So it's important to coin it, not leave it very vague, but yes, there is always a room for making it tighter. Now, quickly kind of capturing what I've been doing. So initially I did my engineering in 2003. Then I had around 7.5 years of experience on core shop floor projects. Then I ventured into corporate finance, capital expenditure management. This was in Aditya Birla Group. So had around 3.5 years of very hardcore shop floor manufacturing experience. Then went into projects, and then slowly graduated into corporate finance, corporate strategy in my earlier experience itself. Then I did my MBA in IIM Bangalore, EPGP. I was of the batch of 2012. And since then, I've been working in GVK in various functions for almost 8 years now. So total experience of almost 16 years now. So no more than that, 16 and a half years. So I think that's all about my experience in terms of numbers. Now, what I have been doing, I think, yeah, this one slide is also important for you guys, that when I was in the MBA, the B school, that time, of course, the buzzword is to get into consulting, get into MNCs. And I also had a flair for consulting. I am also a naturally outspoken, assertive kind of a personality person. So I had inclination towards doing that, got a lot of good consulting jobs, got a good Ivy League offers also. But then I basically interviewed with GVK, who were in the process of building the Terminal 2 in Mumbai. So that basically appealed what I wanted to do. Not necessarily that that's what everybody should do. Consulting or Ivy League companies are as well a very good choice. But for me, at that point of time, I wanted to get associated with a company who, or a asset which can leave an impact, where I can say that yes, I was associated with this particular thing which you see. I have kind of contributed towards that. So that was the Terminal 2 in Mumbai, which I wanted to be part of, and I'm really proud of it till now. Since then, also, I think in GVK, I think one very important thing I've learned is joining say a small company, or even a medium-sized company, and a company which is in a bit of trouble, you can actually make your mark. So the kind of projects I have handled working in GVK, I think they are far uh, uh, bigger and important project than I would have otherwise been able to handle directly on hands. So one of the biggest merger and acquisition, basically selling of Bangalore Airport, I was directly leading that. So it was one of the biggest airport sale project globally. And of course, for the company, it was a life-changing milestone. Currently, we are also in process of hiving off our stake in Mumbai Airport. That is going to be almost $1.5 to $2 billion, say a sale. Again, working with some of the best in business globally, some of the best funds, some of the best bankers, and all these people we are working with. And time and again, since 2014, once I did my project of operationalizing Terminal 2, my entire focus has been on this corporate strategy and divestment strategy, what business you should retain, what business you should get into, valuations of a business, what makes a business tick, what do shareholders want. These are the say aspects which I've been grappling with, and again at the same time leading the entire mergers and acquisitions from the front. If you ask me what worked for me during these years, the journey has been absolutely attitude to continuously learn and no fear. So before 7 8 years, if you would have asked me how good are you with numbers, with Excel, with making jazzy presentations, talking to the analysts. So some of the analysts that I talked to and presented to were the smartest of the kids coming out of the smartest of organizations, chartered accountants with multiple years of experience, and completely grilling kind of analysts. But if you basically are ready to learn, ready to face your fears and just go ahead and be ready for failure also, then I think there is no stopping. I think that is something that has worked for me. And then one after another great projects have started coming into my lab. So I have not listed over here, I also had the innovation lab for Navi Mumbai Airport project, which is a very a project which is very dear to me. It gives me a chance to connect with what is happening in the field of innovation, new age technology, etc. At the same time, working on the mergers and acquisition. I think other aspects which I would say what worked for me and which one should always, as a strategy person, and now especially post COVID or generally also the agile way of decision making or the rapid decision making which has come into place. So now everybody has to be basically abreast with all the information. One thing I would like to point out over here is, one is there is also a lot of information overflow. So one should not get lost in kind of information overflow and be overwhelmed, because what happens is when you have a lot of information, the general point of view of the world becomes your point of view. So you should allow some space, some time for yourself to reflect upon things and form some point of view, rather than basically yourself becoming like a database of 100 point of views and your point of view becoming out as a mixture of those 100 or a simple weighted average of those point of views. It should not be the case. Your faculty of mind is very vast. So allow that time, and if you allow that time and space for yourself to think and ponder upon, you will come out with surprising kind of results and point of views, which is very important, and that is the unique factor that differentiates you from others. I think this slide I'll skip. Of course, what helped from MBA: networking, brainstorming, the ability of thinking and vocalizing fearlessly, which I mentioned, ability to accept failure. After taking an MBA, after basically working for 7 8 years, I think that was one thing which I learned very fast. Courses which helped, I think, yeah, these are the courses which I think I took, and I can share these pointers for you. I don't want to waste time on this. Possible roles, I think these are some of the roles I considered, and a lot of you might get, and now even more so. EA in various companies, management consulting, corporate strategy, government departments. I think a lot of government departments are now hiring smart kids from colleges and strategy functions. Political analyst, I have myself worked actually as a political analyst in my early days in GVK. So that was again a very good learning experience. So, and interestingly, I worked as a political analyst and strategist for Congress party. When at that point of time, I was a very hardcore BJP RSS supporter. But then again, that is kind of one more learning, that irrespective of what your own personal beliefs are, you have to put your work, your task at hand at a prime importance. I think these are some of the questions I wanted to kind of leave it with you. If you guys and want to ask some of these questions that which interviewers generally ask, I can again share these questions with you. I think that's it from my side. And we can revisit some of these slides if basically some of you have questions regarding these aspects. Otherwise, I think I'm ready to open the forum for question and answers.
Ashish, so Bisal here. So one candidate wants some discussion on your BD role in Africa.
Right. Can you please go back to the slides where you showed question asked for strategy role? Okay. Okay. So this presentation we will share part of it. So don't worry about it. Through Go Crack It we will share. So that we will do. So in terms of the role in Africa, again, yeah, very, very challenging and very novel role which I had. And again, it completely came about to me because of my initiative. That there was no role like that GVK wants to go into Africa in airports development. But as after 2015, 14, 15, when we inaugurated the Terminal 2, we had learned so much in airport sector that I basically coined something called as GVK 360, where we basically said that what are the learnings that we have in airport sector which we can apply to other airports. So that was all about my role in Africa. What I did was basically I generated a business model myself, and it was completely non-existent role, non-existent profile. So what we did was basically we and I was the single point of contact or business lead for GVK in Africa. I had to basically go to a lot of African countries, talk to the government officials over there, talk to the airport aviation companies over there, and get into airports development, airport management in those countries. So it was demonstration of what we have done earlier, building the confidence with those teams that how we can deliver low cost, low capex, low investment result for them. So it was basically about increasing their revenues without too much of investment from their side by putting in the best practices that we had generated at GVK.
Hi Ashish, my name is Ravi Chaudhary. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi Ravi.
So Ashish, hi. So I want to ask you if like you will come to IIM Ahmedabad just for recruitment, and you are going to take somebody for strategy role. So what are your expectations from him, and what kind of previous work he would have done that he will have a chance to get a role with you? Or I'm from operations and my aim is to enter into strategy. So will it be possible for me to enter?
Yeah, absolutely. If I have to answer very shortly, I'll ask if his first name is Ravi and second name is Chaudhary.
Correct, that's correct.
No, just joking. So I think, see, and the point you raised is very relevant. It depends upon how you portray your journey. So an operations role by no means is inferior to say corporate role one would have had a chance to work in, or a consulting role, or a sales role somebody would have chance to, or a IT role. What you do in that role, and more important than that, how do you reflect on that role? Because in MBA, once you get a learning about a lot of new aspects, how business is done, how to manage a company, these are the things which actually when we are in operations on field or working in whatever constrained environments we don't focus on that much. We do what we are told to do कि अच्छा ये operations करना है, ये production करना है, be in charge of this particular line item. So you are not having that overall focus of how a business is done, what profitability is, what strategy is. This time you get to reflect when you are in a program like a EPGP or a PGP or MBA program. So this is the time you should reflect and see how you can dovetail your experience into what you want to become. So if you want to go into strategy, you should basically think about, now that you are a strategy person, or now that you are a strategy, you should imagine yourself as being a strategy manager and see that what are the learnings you got from your earlier operations role, what are the opportunities you missed. All these things are important. Even if somebody is not asking you these questions, I think this is how you should present in an interview. That will really impress people in terms of, yes, this guy, although say suppose he has nothing to do with strategy, but he wants to get into strategy, but his vision or his thinking that whatever work I have done, this is how I kind of vision or envision in terms of I basically see it now with a strategy lens. I think that is something which you should bring out, irrespective of whether somebody asks you or not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Ashish, if I may ask a question, my name is
Yes.
Ashay Gupta. I'm studying in Ahmedabad for the PGPX course. This is a 1-year program. So my question is, um, like as you said, that you should know the nuts and bolts. But if you are, let's say, coming from a different industry, and let's say you came from Aditya Birla and you went to GVK. So, I mean, how much of the details you need to know to succeed in a strategy role? Actually, that's my question. Yes.
Right. No, and very good question. So, Ashay and everybody, I think, see, there is no end to how much you can know about any subject. We might consider ourselves as self-proclaimed experts, but none of us are, and a lot of people don't accept this, that yes, we don't know everything. Now, how much you should know is a good question, because you should at least have made an effort to know how a business is run, and not necessarily when you are getting into that role. Of course, when you are getting into that role, you will be an outsider. So when I was got into GVK in airports, and they were into a lot of other businesses as well in roads and all, so which I had no clue about. So even as a passenger, I had not traveled that much when I got into GVK. Maybe 5 or 10 flights I would have taken by then, by 2012, when I joined GVK. But the readiness to learn, the inclination, the way you see world. So, and also one important thing is that uh, the way you see various businesses. So inherently, if you see, and as a MBA aspirant or a MBA student, that is one thing you should do, is identify the similarities and differences in various businesses and business models. So, and one conclusion I have come to is, inherently, if you go and analyze various businesses, there will be a core foundation or building blocks which all the businesses are built upon. Then there is a fine tuning and nuance in each business कि ये business कैसे चलता है. But ultimately, there will be a lot of similarities in this business, and a good strategy person has to identify those similarities and differences.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. This is Shreya Chakravarti, and I'm from IMT Nagpur. So I have a question. It's not a question, but I have a situation which I think I should put forward. Well, if one of the points which you had discussed was taking initiatives, do you think by taking initiatives, like I have faced a situation where for a particular group of people, I took an initiative to conduct a session, for example, or to do any kind of a responsibility which I took over myself. But because of these initiatives, there may be people who would completely rely on me, or who would want every work to be done through me. So do you think in this particular case, how should we make sure that our initiatives are not solely dependent on us?
Right. So, sorry, I forgot your name. What do you mention?
So my name is Shreya Chakravarti.
Yeah, Shreya. So Shreya and everybody, I think a very good question. And a lot of times people starting their career face this issue. And they think that, oh, we are being exploited because we are doing all the work. And why, when people are starting, this is a problem that a lot of people, even when they go ahead in their career, they think, oh, I am the only one who has to do all the work, and he is the one who gets all the attention. This is a normal complaint, a common complaint. Now, one has to realize and appreciate that in a career of, say, 30, 40 years, what gives you more joy? If taking initiative, taking more responsibility gives you fulfillment, just go ahead and do it, irrespective of what happens in terms of whether people are looking up to you, whether you are getting all the responsibility without any reward also. Because when you say, look at these kind of attitudinal changes that you would have made 5 years down the line, you will say, wow, that was one good thing which I did. Because you would have shouldered so many responsibilities, you would have gotten so many projects which other people would have not got. At that point of time, yes, you might feel कि I'm getting so much work which is, say, not related to my aspect, my field of work, or even something like that. But I think you have to think in long term, and I think that one advantage I have, having worked for so long, that I can now say that yes, some of the things which used to feel like a burden in earlier years now feel like a blessing.
Great, great. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, sir.
I think we had a question from Apeksha Rana also. She was asking, is there any difference between management consultancy and strategy consultancy? So, Apeksha, you are still online?
Hi, Ashish. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, see, I think, yes, there is no huge amount of difference as far as outsiders or clients are concerned. Of course, the management consultants and strategy consultants would like to believe that there is a difference of sky and sea between the two. But as far as management consultancy generally is concerned, it is to do about how to optimize your business, how to basically say increase a particular revenue stream, how to minimize cost, or focusing upon a particular specific item. Strategy consultancy is more regarding in terms of how do you basically, what businesses you remain in, what are the businesses you hive off, how should you expand a particular business. So that is more about how a strategy consultancy would approach, and that as a client of consultants, that is how I have looked at these two streams of consulting companies. Rushikesh Shelar had asked that how can I explore the field of strategy, and should I take some courses or take interns or practice case studies? So yes, Rishikesh, I think this is something which you should take up in terms of internship projects, or you can even do freelance projects. Now, actually, is the world of doing freelance projects also. So if you are not getting a consultancy or an internship which you would like to work on, COVID situation has presented like a big canvas for people who are like painters. So you should just go ahead and pick up a topic that you find interesting, which say industries are going to be impacted, Ola, Uber, what will be the future. You can just get into that and do in-depth analysis, give insightful, publish a research paper, and do that. If you are not getting an internship, don't be completely kind of dependent upon courses and internships, because the world is much bigger than courses and internships. Yes, they are important, but yes, you have to expand your horizons.
Yeah, just to add on to what Ashok said, I think that what could be used for undergrads could also be done by people who are pursuing MBAs, right? Because colleges will start still a little later, and they would still have time while they're doing online classes. So, be it a 2-year program or a 1-year program, they can take up such additional freelance or internship projects. Right, Ashish?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I am also continuously on a lookout for interns, smart interns working on various aspects who are ready to work hard and give insightful reports. So through Surta, basically, I'll also keep on floating those kind of aspects.
Okay.
Ashish, may I ask a question? Okay.
Yes.
So Ashish, building upon the earlier question, so in a firm there is a strategy team maybe, and then there is marketing, operations, and various other functions, right? Now strategy can go into as much deep as they can, right? They can design the whole marketing strategy, for example. How do you draw the line, that from here the marketing should take it forward and do their thing? I mean, or you should end up like, how do you decide such?
Right. Again, Ashay, very good question. And this is a problem which a lot of people working in very, very senior levels also face, that where do you stop? And actually that becomes their undoing, that when you decide to stop, the other people will come and conquer your territory. And strategy function generally in organization is looked at by a lot of the function heads as a kind of unnecessary baggage. It's a team of people wearing suit and ties and roaming around and giving suggestions in other people's things, who have no job description of their own. But I think that therein lies the difference, that where do you draw the line and what kind of line do you draw? if you are a strategy person who is really passionate about, say, for example, you gave example of marketing. So who is really passionate about marketing, who has very strong views, and you are ready to back it up with a lot of hard work, research, data, then actually you become more relevant than the marketing head. And that's how a lot of careers get made in terms of transition, that a lot of say strategy people get into functions by virtue of this, that yes, they suggested some breakthrough in marketing, how a particular merchandising should happen, or visual merchandising should be laid out in a FMCG company or something like that. So then they really come and do a wonderful job in those kind of line functions. So you should not be scared and there will always be skeptics saying कि यार ये लोग तो strategy वाले बस presentation बना के भेज देते हैं and then we have to do the hard work. But if you are the really the kind of guy, then you should, and if you are passionate and you are able to gather that kind of support from your strategy function itself, then you should go ahead, be on the shop floor and tell them, yes guys, what you are saying is correct. And in that, interpersonal skills are also important. Yeah, the intention should not be to show that yeah, you guys are idiots and we are the guys with the huge brains and stuff like that. You should basically be collaborative, at the same time be ready to put forth your point with adequate amount of data and research.
All right, thank you. One last question, sorry, is my last question is that how much of the new technologies such as, let's say, advanced analytics, big data has entered into strategy role, in day-to-day strategy work? What is your opinion about it?
So you're saying the big data, the new technology,
Like advanced analytics and
absolutely. Yeah. No, I think going further, it's going to be the order of the day. And in the innovation lab that I'm heading, that is one key aspect about how data and intelligence from data is going to help in conduct of business. So yes, it will be a very, very important contributor. More importantly, even after the COVID, in the post-COVID world, it is actually a fast forward of what could have or would have happened in next, say, 5-7 years. Everybody has to adopt those things in next 1 to 2 years. So I think the amount of change and impact of data and analytics is going to be far more pronounced than earlier it would have been. But again, having said that, ultimately the decision making has to be guided by a rational, old school decision making as well, because a lot of time, yes, data analytics is very important, but it is also a bit overrated, that only data analytics and those kind of things can solve the problems for you. Direct understanding of ground reality is very important, which you can't undo.
Thank you.
Hi, Ashish.
Yes.
This is Chandar here. I'm actually an MBA student from IIM Calcutta. I'm sorry to ask this question right now because I missed the first half of the meeting. You may have already answered this question. So what is the one thing that you actually look for while shortlisting resumes? Because I have a lot of experience in a semiconductor industry, essentially the industry that doesn't exist in India. But I'm really interested in strategy roles in companies like Amazon. So to actually convince a potential employer, what do they typically look for in candidates?
Right. So I think, see, one thing is that whatever communication goes out from your end, be it your LinkedIn profile, be it your resume, I think one has to first off, because that's the first impression, and a lot of time that becomes the last touch point if those guys are not going ahead with your personal interview and stuff like that. So it is very important to kind of craft out those things very, very carefully, because a lot of times we and again, in the age of data deluge, we end up kind of putting so much information over there without too much of soul or life in it, that a lot of people basically discount or don't pay attention to your that first medium of communication. So it is very important to kind of bring out key points in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, build a story in that, so that people are genuinely interested in knowing what you are and what you are doing. And then basically, of course, your skills in terms of how you have been, and Ashay and other people had asked that question, that if you are not from a particular field, you can't portray that I am from that particular field, but it's the learning that you have got from whatever you have. It's the approach which is most important. And for me, I think that's the single most important thing, that what kind of attitude or approach a particular candidate has. Is he ready to learn? Because spending 5 years in an industry, that's not the end of the world. What is the future potential that you have? So there are a lot of times where I've hired people from diverse backgrounds into a function. I myself was completely, as I mentioned, disconnected from what I went into.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Shanu Jain had asked that when hiring happens for strategy role, how industry agnostic recruiters are. On a scale of 1 to 10, at what level would you put requirement of specific industry knowledge? So see, generally, I think, of course, people who have a very good, solid background from a strategy or a corporate role, or somebody who has handled those things, can be a direct fit for a particular function. So, and that's not necessarily true for only strategy. That's true for anything. And strategy that way is far more flexible and open. If you are in a finance background, it becomes slightly more constrained. That if you are from operations, then for getting into a corporate finance role, which is generally given to say CAs and finance MBAs, then you might be at a huge disadvantage that they may just say CAs. That's it. But in strategy, at least that general admin, general understanding of business is given high amount of value. So industry, yeah, it may play an important role, but yeah, you still have a good chance that despite being from a completely unrelated industry, and each industry also, I think I would say, is having a lot of strategy. So it's not that any particular industry has less kind of importance of strategy. So yeah, there might be some impact. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say, so 10 is they require that much higher alignment, you are saying. So maybe 3, 4. I don't think it's that much.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
In terms of Shankar had asked that what are the literature sites. I think nowadays it's a information overload. I think you should read the business newspaper itself, in terms of they are filled with a lot of rich information. LinkedIn articles are huge. If you can get access to some of the premium magazines like Economist or HBR, I think they give a lot of insightful resources, but they are expensive. So I don't say that you go for that. Even in-depth reading about from the business newspapers. And I think far more than reading or absorbing information, it is about how you process that information. So try reflecting upon that information, develop your point of view. I think that is more important than reading more.
Hello, sir. This is Shreya Chakravarti again. Just now you have talked about the future potential for a particular candidate, especially when the candidate has already worked in a company for quite a long time. So being a fresher, how would you assess the future potential for a fresher? Or how should we contribute in some ways is that we are able to be in the eyes of a recruiter?
Correct. So yes, correct. So I think even if you are, say, from a particular industry or a chosen kind of industry which might work positively with some of the recruiters, or if you are not, one thing which is very clear, and now it is going to be more and more clear, that how a particular person is more proactive, what kind of initiatives he takes. Even say in the lockdown, what has he done? Has he researched something? Has he worked upon something? Has he augmented his skills? Is he basically kind of trying to learn more and more skills? Is he trying to contribute overall? So I think those are the softer and even harder aspects which are of focus, and they, in my view, go far over your skills and your industry background. So a person might be from a absolutely say 10 for 10 match in terms of what a particular job might entail, but his attitude is not correct, or he's not a fast learner, or he's not demonstrating the correct attitude. I think he will lose to a person who is not from a related industry but is demonstrating a right kind of attitude. So I think, in my view at least, and when I go to recruit, I give a very high weightage to these aspects.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir. Tanvi this side.
Yes.
Sir, my question is, while designing designing any strategy for a particular company, the candidate has to look into a lot of aspects, like the current maybe supply chains or the marketing strategy, and then devise a new strategy which might work better for the company. So, in that respect, in what dimensions should the candidate wanting to pursue a career in strategy should develop its resume and its thinking ability in?
No, so if I understand your question correctly, you are saying that getting into a strategy role, you have to work on new strategies for a particular company. So how do we dovetail our resume and profile to suit that? So I think I answered that question. I'll maybe answer slightly differently for you. Is basically, again, it comes down to how much of a thinker you are. And Ashay again had asked this question regarding how business differs from other business. So again, seeing the commonalities in various businesses and identifying those 3-4 businesses which you might be passionate about. So if you say there are 4-5 companies or sectors which are your target sectors, say Ola, Uber, Flipkart, and say take any name, Big Basket, right? So these are your 3, say, target companies. So start seeing what are the commonalities within the business model of these companies. What are the risks that they have? Nobody needs to tell you or give you a project to do that. That work you have to do on your own. What is your target company? What is your target sector? Study that sector, understand the risks and opportunities in that sector, understand that well, and basically present those. If not in your resume, have blogs, have write-ups on your LinkedIn profile. You can do all those things.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hi, Ashish. Ashish, this is Priya. I'm from Crackit team. It'll be good if you can touch base on what are the key, failure points in strategy, because strategy is important in every stage of our life, and even these interns have to use the strategy on the internship projects that they're working on. So, what are the key things that they have to keep in mind where they need to be careful and so that they either avoid or minimize the failure points.
Right. I think, say, while you are working on a strategy project, or you are, say, interviewing for a company, or more importantly, when you are working with a company, I think most important thing to have is basically fear of failure. You should not have, actually. Should be ready to fail, because see, failure is basically unavoidable. Some point or other, your strategy will fail. Some of the biggest strategy makers in the world have failed. So there is no shame or nothing to lose hope if your strategy fails. So when I talk about so gloriously about my experience at GVK, the overall strategy for the company has failed. But in that failed strategy, how we have still managed to keep the hopes alive, trying to find solutions in whatever situation we are in, and maximize from each starting position. So it's like a stock market play also, right? So you might have a share which has gone very high and then it came down, zooming to a absolutely low value. Then you might spend the rest of your life thinking that अच्छा ये तो 400 रुपया चला गया था share. Now only when this particular thing I succeed so much, then only it will make meaning. You have to forget about that. You have to come back to reality, say that this is the current situation. How do I improve from here? And that is real growth. So that is, and about strategy also, that's also equally true. Yes, you have to be pragmatic. You have to understand what is the business situation. Strategy managers, people who want to get into strategy need to be by design, be open and receptive to new information. You should keep on analyzing the business environment, changes in business laws, which is so dynamic now. Earlier also it was very dynamic after the Modi government came in 2014. A slew of changes coming in. I am not commenting on whether they were positive, negative, etc. But the pace of change was very fast. Now after COVID, it has become 10x kind of change. Every day Nirmala Sitharaman or somebody comes on TV and they announce 10, 50 different changes. So the business environment is changing so fast. So one has to really absorb all that information and make notes, keep on making notes so that you are abreast with what is happening and keep on deciding. And one thing you have to keep in mind that in strategy field, failure will come, because there are people who are working on different strategies and what strategy works. And some event like COVID or any other kind of event, and now we don't know what kind of fallout of this event is going to, what kind of fallouts you are going to see. So the world is completely going to change. So one thing which is for certain is your strategy is going to fail. By what degree, by what margin, you have to make sure that your strategy fails lesser than your competitor.
Sure. Thanks, Ashit. That helps.
Yeah, Ashish, just one question, Ravi Chaudhary this side again. You were saying that you are also providing some consulting type means for freelance. So where can I find that?
No, sorry, what about internships that we provide? You're saying?
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
Right. So on an ongoing basis, I have a lot of projects which I work with a lot of students. So through various forums, I get students to work with me. So I keep on engaging with students. Currently, I have already around 15, 16 students working with me. But in terms of if there are new projects, I would definitely through the Go Crack It team, I will basically communicate to you. There are a lot of new platforms which list a lot of industry projects. You can check on the internet regarding those also. But what I was saying is, irrespective of people wanting your project or not, you can, if you are say passionate about a particular thing, you should go ahead and research and publish a freelance blog or a write-up. Nobody's stopping you from doing that, because if you keep on waiting for the right project to come in, you'll basically lose time. So instead of that, you can basically go ahead and do that work yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Go-to book on strategy, still I think Michael Porter remains still one of the widely read authors on strategy. A lot of BCG articles you can subscribe to and read. BCG releases a lot of good articles on how business strategy is changing. There is a lot of work in the field of innovation and strategy. I forget the name of author. I think it's taught in MBA school also. So innovation strategy, the Chasm was one good book which I had read. So there are a lot of good books on innovation and strategy, and some of the old school authors also you can read. And plus, as I mentioned, HBR publishes a lot of good articles on strategy. You should basically go through that. Data analytics, Vibla, we discussed, I think. So data analytics is going to be very important. It is going to be game changer. But yes, at some point of time, it always happens that a lot of people talk about a particular stream of science or management so much that they think Baki sab is of no use. So data analytics will also face that bubble that yes, everybody will say yes, data analytics is the kind of go-to mantra in terms of business skills. Nothing else matters. But that is also not true. Yes, data analytics is important. In operations and strategy, we use it a lot in airports also, in terms of the queuing theory, what are the passenger footfalls, which area to target in terms of passengers, how to do resource allocation, all those things. So it's in all fields, it is very important.
Great. So thanks a lot, Ashish, for the wonderful session today. I think along with, with the breadth and the depth of your experience, you could answer questions from people who are still graduating and people who have a lot of experience and have gone on to do MBA now. So thanks a lot for the wonderful session, the questions, and as we discussed in the session, those students who are interested in doing internships where we can connect, we will help in connecting as well. And we do have a lot more sessions going on ahead. But yeah, thanks Ashish. Thanks a lot for your time.
No problem.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashish. Thanks a lot.